Rutherford B. Gaston Middle School in West Fresno opened its doors on August 18, 2014. It took Fresno Unified School District 35 years to finally build a bona fide neighborhood school in West Fresno. Certain community advocates questioned the district's hire for African American and Latino studies. Today, these community advocates will share their commitments and concerns regarding that hire. Please stay tuned. Welcome to Perspectives on Faith and Culture. I am Karen Crozier, and today I'm joined by community advocates Roger Brown and Tanisha Sorrell, as well as Pastor Paul McCoy of New Life, a New Life Church of God. To the three of you, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's begin with you, Mr. Brown. Please share your involvement in West Fresno and how you became involved regarding the Gaston hire there.
Well, one of the biggest things I noticed that during the hiring of the Fresno Unified School District period is that we noticed that there was a lack of African American males principals. There was not any, and so we was looking at leadership. So when we seen that, that was one of the biggest things, and then we started talking about having the curriculum of African American studies. So we've been going to the school for the last few years, about 4 or 5 years, to try to get this curriculum in, African American studies. So when the school, Gaston, will be built. So once it was built, and then we started talking about the curriculum, and then we were just assuming and hoping that, you know, they will have some type of leadership teaching the class as well. You know, but we find out that no, it wasn't one of our leaders to talk about our culture studies. So.
Well, thank you for opening it up as far as around the leadership and your involvement over the last several years and trying to shape this reality that's been 35 years in waiting. Ms. Sorrell, can you share your experience and connection to West Fresno, your involvement, as well as your vision for African American and Latino studies at Gaston?
Sure. I was born and raised in the Southwest Fresno community. I'm actually an alumni of what used to be Carver Middle School. Even though I was born and raised in the community, I never knew my community. So it was around the age of 16 when I was actually introduced to my community and what was my community, what did it look like, and how it functioned, and who were the movers and shakers, and who were the people who could speak and allow things to take place and not allow things to take place. In ways of me becoming involved, I started off as anyone else would, volunteer work and things of that nature, because I was typically involved on campus or in my faith-based community. But upon coming involved in the community, I started off volunteering, and I am a natural-born leader, and so I knew that I wouldn't stay there long. Once I became aware of how things took place, and I saw the lack of youth leadership and representation for people such as myself, it was my obligation to make sure that I became a part of the table. When I heard of the Gaston hire, I knew that that was somewhere where my voice was needed to be heard. I knew that that was somewhere where I needed to represent a community. And so it was just natural for me to automatically jump on board and to make sure that things became how they needed to be. If not, I was going to be someone who was able to say that I tried.
Thank you. No problem. Yeah, Pastor McCoy, share your involvement in West Fresno community and your vision for African American Latino studies at Gaston.
I became civically involved in Southwest Fresno at the age of 15. I was the only youth on the neighborhood council at that time. And ironically, one of my inspirations was Mr. Gaston himself, because he was my principal at Tillman Elementary School. When I saw him for the first time patrolling the grounds at Tillman, it really gave me an inspiration, because here's a man that looked like my father, and that I knew that had the life experiences like my dad, and understood us kids, especially African American kids, and the things that we were experiencing and the things that we were going through, as well as my mom. And so he gave me great inspiration as a principal, is because he was in a position of authority. And I knew that he would hold me accountable, but he would also hold his teachers accountable. And that my confidence level rose because I knew that he was in charge of that school district. So our segue from that to today is that his inspiration and his dedication has involved me in the activities and the social issues of Southwest Fresno, as well as the city of Fresno. And he was a man of change, of transformation. And so the issues that confront Gaston as an issue that confront other middle schools is a very transforming middle school. And so we want to be a part, I want to be a part of that transformation. And so that is what gives me inspiration to be involved and to let those in the district realize is that there are strong African American men that care about our children as well as all other children, and that we too know what's best for our kids. And so we are going to communicate that and politic that and educate that which we know is best for our children.
Right. Thank you, Pastor, for naming about the educational part, because many people don't know that it was us leaders in the community who fought for the inclusion of African American studies into the curriculum. No other middle school in Fresno Unified has that curriculum. So you all as community advocates can celebrate that fact. When we look at that reality, how can we continue to look at, by what has happened, what is your stance on what the district has done in hiring someone who doesn't look like us, who doesn't have our lived experience? What is your stance on the district's hire regarding leadership in the ways that we advocated for this curriculum, but have not continued to be involved? Ms. Tanisha, would you like to lead us?
Sure. I'm sure that the gentleman who was hired for the African American Studies course is a leader of his own kind. And he can be a leader in his community as well as in ours. He can be a leader on any campus, including Gadsden. And I'm sure that he is portraying leadership, and I'm sure that he is showing that to those students in ways that they can develop and become leaders as well. Overall, I'm in disagreement with him teaching the African Americans and Latino study course for several reasons. I come from that community, and as an African American woman, I do know, as an African American I do know how being able to relate to someone ethnically takes things to the next level. And we come from a community, and a lot of us have a mentality. We come from a great community with a lot of specific needs. And we've had the lack of an African American course, and that has been the blame to a lot of why our community was the way it was, just a lack of history in our community, in our urban community. So I think even with African Americans and Latinos, we need to be able to relate to someone teaching that course ethnically, someone who can relate to our struggle and identify. You know, I would need someone who can teach me how to be an African American woman. You know, I would need someone who I can relate to outside of the books, outside of what we all can go to school and learn. I need someone who can relate to me as a neighbor in my community. So as for the district's hire, I don't think it was well thought out. The course wasn't perceived to be an African American and Latino studies course. It was perceived to be as a social study course. So that shows how the unified leadership has failed us. You know, we're not communicating effectively. there's that middleman, and we're not getting to point A to point B as smoothly as we can. So I don't think it's form-fitting. I think that would be the safest way to articulate how I felt about the district's hire.
I love what you said in the language. We are a great community with specific needs. And Mr. Brown, you shared about leadership. What is great about West Fresno and the specific needs in light of the district's hire and your perspective on the district's hire?
Well, at times, part of my leadership is, like we were saying earlier, about the youth. I like to build that youth capacity to get out there to show what our culture is like, what we've been through, what we have invented, what we've done. And my thing about Mr. Beck being the teacher at the New Gaston Middle School, I don't think he could show that leadership with our kids of the struggle and the experience of walking in someone's shoes that my father or my uncles have walked through. I don't have nothing against Mr. Beck, but I just know he can't teach or be a father figure of our young kids that haven't been through the struggle. So my biggest thing is that playing part of that leadership is a very important role, because we do need to know our culture through people that look like us or went through like us. So other than that, I would like to definitely compare that with the leadership of what we need to continue looking and focusing on.
Right, and that was Pastor McCoy's point in his first response regarding how Mr. Gaston was that, whom the school is named after.
Correct.
And so do you want to share anything more specific, Pastor McCoy, around your perception or perspective on the district's hire in light of leadership?
I think one of the critical factors that any institution must consider when they are hiring is the sensitivity to the community in which they are serving. And when we talk about Gaston Middle School and we talk about the population of that particular area of Hispanic, Latinos, African Americans, Asians, Hmong, is that it's important that one of the critical factors is sensitivity. And when we talk about African studies, Latino studies, one of the critical factors in hiring should always be the sensitivity towards the community in which you are in. And this hire obviously demonstrates an insensitivity towards the community, because what it says is that the life experiences of the community, it really doesn't matter. What matters is the values of those that hold leadership in the school district. And that really is a affront to the students and to the parents. And that's why I oppose it, is because it does not reaffirm the values that Latinos, their culture, African Americans and their culture, and it doesn't affirm the sensitivity that every school district should have toward the very population in which it is serving.
Great. Well, thank you for your response. We're going to take a break at this time. We'll see you in 60 seconds.
KNXT, the nation's only full-powered broadcast station, owned and operated by a Catholic diocese in the U.S. and streaming live on the internet at KNXT.tv. Need your support to keep the message of the good news alive. Just go to KNXT.tv, click on the Make a Financial Gift, go to Donate, and fill out your one-time or monthly offering under PayPal. It's just that easy. Your donation makes it possible for KNXT, Catholic Television, to continue its ministry by celebrating the Mass and proclaiming the gospel. Thank you from KNXT.
Welcome back to the show. Today I'm joined by community advocates Roger Brown and Tanisha Sorrell, as well as Pastor Paul McCoy of New Life, a New Life Church of God, in which we are examining their concerns and commitments regarding Fresno Unified School District's hire for African American and Latino studies. We are experiencing the reality of what Pastor McCoy said before the break, is that it was an affront on the community, like a slap in the community's face. And in light of the work that you have been doing, you have been called racist. And you also have been informed that Mr. Beck is qualified. So everyone doesn't agree with you. What is your response to the claims that he has a master's, Mr. Beck, who is a teacher that the district has hired? He's qualified for this. Why can't you just go along with this? Ms. Sorrell, what do you think about, how do you respond to those who disagree with you, both within and beyond West Fresno?
Well, one of the great things about being an individual is we all are entitled to our own opinions. And so it's not to point fingers. It's not an opportunity to point fingers and say you're wrong and I'm right. It's about saying you're entitled to feel how you feel, and so am I. When you don't live in my community, you can't tell me what's best for my community. When you don't serve my children and our children, you can't tell us what's best for us. Yes, he is educationally qualified. However, if you go to school to be a math teacher, you can teach math. If you go to school to be an English teacher, you can teach English. When you specifically want to teach a culturally historical class, you need to, it becomes a different ballgame. So yes, on papers he is qualified. There's more to it than that. And back to as far as being referred to as racist, our community leaders, we never fail to display love. Like I said, it's not an opportunity to call anyone wrong. And it would be great if we could all be on one accord and be like-minded. But I think if we keep our focus on our children, none of who's right or who's wrong would even matter. It's about our children at the end of the day. It's about quality education. And that's bigger than being called this or that. You can call me what you please if you would serve my children and give them the education of which they desire, and allow who is qualified in other cases outside of education to teach them.
Especially when you're talking about specific course that you brought up around the ethnic studies, African American and Latino studies. What would you like to add to that, Pastor McCoy?
Well, just following right along is that this course, African American Studies, requires one that has life experiences, that has lived. If it's Latino, you would want a Latino instructor. If it's African American, you would want a African American instructor, one that has actually experienced the lifestyle and nuances and the difficulties of living Black or living Latino in America. Is because that individual is the one that can directly relate to the students that's coming to their class, and also express an educational aspect to students who come from other parts of the community where they can learn from that teacher. So life experiences is vital to teaching a course such as African American Studies Latino. I cannot teach, even though I may have all the degrees for our Armenian cultural studies, is that it's best that a Armenian person teach Armenian cultural studies. Is because the students are able to relate, and that teacher is able to display knowledge and experience to his or her students because they have lived it. And it's no different with African American Studies, Latino studies. I mean, we should use common sense, and we should be very sensitive to the community that we are responding to.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Brown, what is your perspective on the negative terms you have been called in your work and engage in this issue?
Well,
and those who disagree with you.
Oh, okay. When they talk about racism, you know, it's not that we racism. we racist about what we want. We just asking for an African American person to teach our kids the culture studies. Now, some of the people I see that's against us, it's like you making a racial issue when you saying that, because what we want to teach our kids what they need to know. My comparison is that when it comes down to even like religion, you know, you can't teach me how to be, you know, Catholic if I'm Baptist or something. You know, you just can't come and teach me this in one class, because the other understanding is that you teaching Latino studies, so therefore if you're Catholic and then you come in one class to the next, then you go to the second period and you teach African American, but you know we Baptists, it's kind of hard to kind of figure that out. Or if you're gonna show me how to be African American, or teach us about African American studies, and then you're gonna wear, I'm looking at you because it's about the clothing you wear, it's about the music that you listen to, and so forth. So therefore, you have to what you eat, you know. So therefore, you're gonna share that experience of what you know about our culture as an African American, and then you're gonna jump to a Latino the next class and do the same thing about what they wear and their music. So it's more than just, you know, the textbook material. It's more of what you experience in life. So therefore, I don't see how the racist part comes in when you're teaching the culture of one's.
Right. What the viewing audience may not know is that the structure in which Gaston has designed for the teaching of African American studies is 2 sections of African American studies and then 1 section of Latino studies. And so you were sharing of how the teacher who has been hired in that position, Mr. Beck, has to go from class to class and switching, and he's not part of or have had the lived experience of either culture in that context, if I'm understanding you correctly.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And so when we go a little bit further, when we're looking at racism, interpersonal racism has more to do with, as I understand it, is when there is prejudice, discrimination, and great hostility that is being imposed upon another group based upon one race thinking that they are superior or better than because of that's their attitude and belief. Do you believe that you are better than any other race on this earth? Because that is what we know of as white supremacy, as far as that attitude, that it was part of the founding of this country, and many enslaved Africans have come here, was brought here because they was deemed as less than. Would you perceive that to be what is the spirit operating here, or is it something other? Ms. Sherrill, you shared love. How would you respond to that in that sense, and that it's not against the individual, but it's a concern about the institutional practices, as Pastor McCoy brought out?
In all honesty, I feel like that is a personal issue. For you to, you know, you have to have evidence to prosecute someone. You have to have evidence. You cannot have evidence of my mentality because you do not know what I am thinking. Our approach has not been hostile. We have never given, none of our actions should have given anyone the perception or the assumption that we feel we are superior than anyone. That is not true in any way, form, or fashion. Our approach, our conduct has been righteous. It has been loving. We have dealt with things in proper protocol, chain of command. We have conducted ourselves in a manner to where we can still be of an influence to someone positively. So I do not think we are at fault. It's unfortunate, however, that we are looked upon as that. It really is, because these children in our community, they watch, they observe. So, you know, they notice the dysfunction at the top of the line. They see the miscommunication. And like I said, if we would really direct our focus on where it should be, we wouldn't go around treating each other the way we are. We wouldn't go around referring to each other as racist. We're losing sight of what's important, and I think all of that is a distraction. from what we really need to be, where we need to be investing our time and our energy. The more we bicker and batter, you know, the less we pay attention to our children, and they notice that, and they take heed to that. So we need to recreate our message as leaders from both ends. You know, there's a way to do things and a way not to do things. I don't even feel the need to apologize for anyone who feel that way. It's unfortunate that you feel that way. And I hope we can work together and hope we can become like-minded and serve children of all races, of all ages, of all ethnic backgrounds. I hope that we can serve children together and focus on quality education. If you want to talk about racism, your curriculum looks racism. Your curriculum is black and white. This is not why we fought to integrate schools, to have black and white curriculum. If you ask me, that's where racism lies, in our curriculum. And we're not, unfortunately, once again, we're not in control of that.
Thank you. Pastor McCoy, as a clergy, what is your message to the clergy in 30 seconds or less to get them involved in congregations in what is happening at Gaston and West Fresno?
My message is simply is that all of us are needed, irrespective of your income, what class that you may be a part of, what your skin color is. All of us need to be involved and understand that each ethnic group has specific needs that has to be addressed. If we don't address them at this level, we will have to address them at some time later. And it will cost us a whole lot more than what we are investing right now. So I urge all our clergy, all members of churches, is to get involved and understand that there are distinct differences, needs that a community and people needs, and we must have the respect and honor those differences. And so life experiences of a people is of great value, and it makes great sense that we address the needs with life experiences, particularly of our teachers.
Great. Well, thank you for being on the show today. And you can catch KNXT.TV/perspectives, the show online, or watch on Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Channel 49 and Fridays at 1 p.m. Thank you for watching. Take care, and God bless.